Welcome to AP Taylor Swift, the podcast for Swifties with English degrees, or those who just overanalyze everything. Each episode, we dive into a deep reading of Taylor Swift's lyrics to uncover the literary themes, references, and inspirations behind the songs to better understand and interpret why Taylor's songs resonate so deeply with fans. I'm Jody, and I'm joined by Jen and Monsi, and we are your unofficial professors of Taylor Swift. We did all the extra credit, then got graded on a curve. So now we're here to teach some lessons, whether we're qualified to or not. Today, we have our very first deep dive episode for you. Now, in a deep dive, we take one song from our previous show and tell episode, and we, yes, you guessed it, deep dive into an analysis of just that one song. So today, we are diving into Enchanted from Speak Now. This is a song we started talking about in our previous episode, Songs That Made Us Swifties. So if you didn't listen to that one yet, I highly recommend you go back, give that one a listen first, because there might be some things we don't talk about in this episode, and it's because we just covered it in the previous one. But before we dive into a deep reading, Jen, you should probably start us off with a primer on how to analyze a text, because it has been quite a while since I've been in an English class, and I'd imagine it may have been quite some time for some of our readers as well. So why don't you give us a little primer first?
So when it comes to analyzing a text, there's a lot of different ways you can do it, but you can think about like word choice, you can think about like poetic devices. One of the ways I like to think about it, because I think it gives some good structure, is you think about the rhetorical triangle. So who is the speaker? In this case, I think, we can say Taylor Swift. Not all of her songs are necessarily that way. Like you have Mary's song and like other ones that are like clearly from a different point of view. And then who is the audience? And we can discuss who we think the audience is. But then the question that I think we should answer as we're analyzing is, what's her goal? What is her purpose in this song? And we might not always agree, and that's fine. But what is the purpose of the song? And then how is she accomplishing that? So we kind of discuss it in the show and tell, but we can dig into making pitches of what's the purpose, and then let me prove it. Let me pull out excerpts where I talk about word choice, poetic devices, even musical things, like the way that the music creates an emotion or creates an experience. That's something we could also discuss as well. So that's usually a good way to analyze it, because it gives you a structure, you know what you're moving towards. But then the way that we all kind of argue our point or agree with each other's points, we should always be going into the text and saying like, and here's more evidence for this reason.
Great. Yeah, so you did mention if we're starting with the speaker, it does sound like it's definitely in first person. I don't think there is actually like a confirmation that it's her, but we can assume that she's probably the speaker. Do we know who the song is about? Like, I don't think she ever
doesn't matter. I will argue that it doesn't matter who
You're
it's
right,
about.
You're right. It doesn't really matter.
I think we can say it's the speaker, even if it's not her, it is someone who is sincere and genuine, who feels stuck again in a place where she's surrounded by fakeness. There I was again tonight, forcing laughter, faking smiles, same old tired, lonely place. And so whatever that conjures up for you, to me, the like image I have is like a young artist around old wealth, which I don't know if that's necessarily true, or Hollywood with all of this fakeness. So regardless of it, I think it's someone who is like young, who is successful, but who wants something real. And she is stuck in this environment that does not conducive to authenticity, realness, sincerity. And that's where she feels trapped. And that's how she's starting this song.
For me, it's someone who just doesn't fit in. So I would like simplify it even further. It's just the act of not fitting in. And because you feel like you don't fit in, it's forced, it's fake, it's tired, and you feel very alone. And then the purpose for me is this shift of something that makes you feel seen and heard, and like, wait a second, I don't have to feel that way. I don't have to not fit in. I can belong, whether it's with a person or in a place.
Yeah, I feel like the song itself, the purpose is to capture that feeling of what it is to be seen in a place where you are normally not seen.
I like the first imagery that the first few lines conjure for me is actually Pride and Prejudice, like imagining
Ooh.
like a young
Ooh.
girl at a place that she does not want to be, like a ball. Like this is so like Elizabeth Bennet kind of in a way if I'm referencing.
Yes. I love that so much.
I mean, there I was again, forcing laughter, faking smiles, same old tired, lonely place.
Stop! It's about Darcy.
I mean, she didn't like Darcy the first time she met him, though. But yeah,
Okay, eventually, this is about Darcy when she eventually realizes, like, oh,
it's about Mr. Wickham.
oh no, it can't be. Guys, and I know. Wait, Monty, I know you saw the Barbie movie. Jen, did you see the Barbie movie yet?
I literally just bought tickets to see it tomorrow.
Okay, well then I won't spoil it. But
Please.
Pride and Prejudice comes up in the movie, and we will talk about it later.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm so excited.
Anyway.
But yeah, I don't know why, but like Regency era is like kind of the thing that came up to me. But maybe it's that I'm trying to remember that the music is like a slow build kind of thing too, but it does have a very elegant quality. I'm trying to remember if there was orchestra or strings. Yeah.
This song feels ballroom to me, or maybe it's because I've now seen her in a poofy ballroom dress singing it. But yes, I get the same vibes when I think of like a sparkling night. It's wonderstruck, playful conversation, right? Like you're right. Like I do think now I can't unthink it. Ballroom.
Sorry.
No, you're good. It's a great one.
Well, I think too, kind of some of the word choices, like you were saying, Jody, is like you have across the room your silhouette. That's not a word we use very often anymore. Counter all your quick remarks. That's a very like Jane Austen witty, like, they're going back and forth type of thing.
Passing notes? Who passes notes? You text them.
Yeah.
You Snapchat if you want a secret note.
Every now and then she does like sprinkle in some of her everyday normal. This is like what I was saying earlier about like turning ordinary into extraordinary. Like passing notes in secrecy feels like a very classroom activity, right? So now all of a sudden you're taken out of this ballroom scene and you're thrown back into the classroom. And it's almost like that parallel between like everyday and things that are extraordinary. Nobody passes notes in real life, like outside of that setting.
Is it Cinderella? Sorry, I just had this flash. Like, this is also very Cinderella. Like, it's, someone
Yeah.
who doesn't fit in, and then someone makes you feel seen. The blushing all the way home is, for me, what, like, clicked the Cinderella.
So I love that. I make a pitch though. If it is Cinderella, this is from the point of view of the prince, that he's stuck at this ball he doesn't want to be at, and the silhouette is Cinderella. They have this incredible engagement, and then she leaves, and he keeps wondering, who do you love? Or is this available? So I would swap that, and I think that works really well.
That's amazing.
Bow down. That's incredible.
We have a timing reference here. 2 a.m. Lingering question kept me up. It is past midnight.
She's turned into a pumpkin again.
Yeah.
Sorry, this carriage turns into a pumpkin. But when I'm up too late, I say I'm about to turn into a pumpkin, which is why I say she. Anyway, but I think the Cinderella, I think these literary, like Cinderella or Pride and Prejudice, I go back to, this was the very first page, not where the storyline ends. Like, that's another reason why these very literary storybook references come up.
She's comparing her life to a story. She's putting herself in these works of literature and just drawing a parallel there.
I think what I love about it too is it captures the moment well. That's one of the things I love that she does about her songs of, does this go anywhere? We don't know. But that moment where you have this magical connection with someone, a group of people, whatever it may be. But like she does this thing, I feel like, where it's like, here's my evening or whatever, long timeline. She picks a moment or two and then she goes in and is like, how can I create a song that just magnifies this one emotion or this one experience? And like life is thousands of experiences, but she gives us, these 3-minute songs to just sit in that one moment and just really experience it, which I think is really cool.
For me, that's very Singin' in the Rain in the ballet scene. Like, you sing, I don't know if anyone else is a big Singin' in the Rain fan, but like you have the whole thing and then it like the whole dance and it zooms in and you go on like the imagination. It's this like 10-minute long scene of the dancing and all the things that he could do, and he becomes a big star. And then it zooms back into the, like, he comes, anyway, sorry.
That was not a good description of Singing in the Rain, so don't go on that description, but in my head it works.
Just YouTube it. It's fine.
Just sing it. Go watch Singing in the Rain. That's all I have to say. Anyway.
It's ruminating on an emotion.
An emotion and a moment.
A moment in time with a very specific feeling. And I think that is the key to the universality, right? Like a lot of us have different experiences, but we all have the same basic emotions. And when you focus in, like laser focus on just like a feeling, it becomes something that anyone who has ever felt that way now resonates with.
Yeah, I think going back to what you had said, Jody, of even simplifying it more, it's someone who is in a place where they don't fit in, which is like all of the like the literary examples we've given. That's true. And I think what this song captures for me is being in a place where you don't fit in, but there's one person who gets you, who sees you, or even a group of people of like, sometimes I can even feel this. This is going to be really cheesy. I really love my family. And I can remember times in my life where things were like terrible and I would go home and visit my family and I'd be like, oh, these are my people. Like they will love me no matter what. And like that, even that still like captures some of this of like, all of this around me is fake. It's vacant. It's meaningless, but I have some connection here that is, wonderstruck, flawless, like just that quick moment where you're like, oh, someone sees me, someone gets me. And like, yes, there's all this like romantic other stuff, but even without that, like, please don't be in love with someone else. Please don't have somebody waiting on you. Like, even if that connection is like a friendship, like I still want this friendship to happen. And so like, I can still hope like, oh, I hope that they like want to be my friend too, that they don't have something else going on in their life that this is not, they don't have space for it. Like I want this connection to last, I think is what it feels for me.
I think for me, I love that. I even go back to like a place that makes you feel this way. So for me, like my high school was like a refuge for me. And then also going to grad school at Michigan, go blue. Like those are two places where I felt finally seen and heard and valued. And then I'm looking at the lyrics at the end, like the please don'ts, where you're like, don't lose that. Please don't be in love with, like all these fears that you're going to lose it, that it's going to go away, which I think are very valid and real. Like I feel this incredible feeling, wonderstruck, awe. I'm praying that this will continue, that this really is as good as it seems. But please don't let me be wrong. I think that fear, that switch to fear of loss at the end is very, the anxiety girly in me feels that very strongly of like, oh shit.
That ending is the first time we see the word, well, I guess it's not the first time. The word you is like all throughout the song, but the last two lines is where she is like saying, directly addressing the audience, quote unquote, like the audience that she could be talking to. Who do we think that is? I mean, to me, it's almost like what you're saying, Jody, and even my interpretation was really similar. It was like this college experience. It's not really a person. It's like to the universe. She's throughout the whole song has these higher themes of like tying it to more epicness and something greater and larger than life. And I feel like it's almost, she does mention prayer earlier, but doesn't that feel a little bit like a prayer at the end? Like just like, please, it's like a hope.
Repeated.
Yes.
Like in the music. Yeah. It's repeated.
Yeah.
Again and again.
Right. It does feel like
doubt. There's a lot of doubt.
There's a lot of doubt, and it feels like a message to something higher than oneself, or like it's not just to another person. Maybe it's like almost to the universe, the powers that be, like whatever may be pulling all these strings. It's like, don't let it end.
Yeah, because even those lyrics, like, that's not something please don't be in love with someone else. You can't really ask someone that if they're already in love with someone else, so be it. There's nothing you can do. This isn't a request you make of a person. It's the request you're making of the universe, whatever the higher power may be, of like, please don't let this, please don't let this end. This was the very first page, not where the storyline ends. Like, those are requests. And I think that's an interesting point too, just thinking about any of these kinds of connections in life of like you experience something so great and then it almost immediately humbles you of how little control you have. And that's where those prayers come in of like, this was wonderful. And immediately like, I can't really control if this lasts. I can't control, there's some things I can do, but if I graduate, I have a friend who moves away, all of those things are really out of our control. And so you're just kind of praying to the powers that be that this will last as long as it can, that it'll be you'll be wonderstruck, it'll be flawless, and you're just going to hold on to that as long as you can.
I don't want to change the topic too much, but I'm now stuck on the lyrics. I'll spend forever wondering if you knew I was enchanted to meet you. Because to me, that means she's not saying this. She's not bringing this up at all. Like, this is all in her head, yet she will spend forever wondering. And like, I think if this is about a person, it's something that you're never going to say these things to the person who clearly like had such an impression. But then the other interpretation I have is if this is about a place or an experience, like, do you realize how much you mean to me? Do you realize how important this is to me? Because if it's a person, I feel like you would tell them I was enchanted to meet you, how I feel about you. But if it's an experience or a place, it's like I am indebted to this, and it has made such an impact on my life that forever I will be thinking about how much this means to me.
It almost to me speaks of the power. It's like, I'm going to be curious whether this moment had such a power on you, or like, I mean, I guess it's like, even if she did say it, you can't quite quantify like the effect or like the significance of that moment. So I think along the veins of like really making something extraordinary, like it is so powerful that you might never be able to fully capture it or express it. And you may be forever wondering if the other person had that same feeling or if others had that same emotion. But I do think it's such a powerful way, even the way that she expresses it. Like, I'll spend forever is a long time. Wondering, again, has that word wonder. It's like, even in the way that she has written that line, it makes you feel like the immensity almost of like the emotion that she is feeling, and whether anybody else would ever be able to feel something similar.
And she even says, like, later on, which I feel like this is a line that we should come back to. My thoughts will echo your name. I think that imagery is really fascinating. Until I see you again. These are the words I held back as I was leaving too soon. So
Ooh.
she had the opportunity to say something.
Turn into a pumpkin. She had to leave.
Cinderella.
Which I think is interesting. I almost feel like this song in some ways is like a call to action of like, not regret, like she's celebrating this moment, but I think there's that tinge of regret of like, should I have said something? Like, am I going to spend forever wondering what if, because I held back these words? So like, if there is someone, maybe say something. Don't let that moment pass.
Which takes me back to Hey Stephen, where she's like thinking all these things about this boy that she has a crush on, and also doesn't say anything.
Well, let's talk about that for a second, because it's so interesting in that comparison specifically. Like, Hey Stephen is so lighthearted and comical, and in contrast to that, she really is able to make this feel huge, right? Like, you go from being super lighthearted to like, this feels like so many layers of depth. It's like a very deep emotion. So I'm fascinated by how she switches gears, because she's the same songwriter. She's written both of these songs, albeit a little bit of time has passed in between. Just the fact that she's able to access that level of depth, like, what are some of the ways that she does that it becomes apparent right almost from the opening?
I feel like Hey Stephen is a crush, and I feel like Enchanted is a longing. And I think that those are kind of different feelings to me. But also the way she starts Hey Stephen, I like don't have the lyrics up in front of me, but Hey Stephen is kind of a like, hey, we're friends and you're cool and I like you and I want you to know that. And this one starts with like, there I was again tonight, forcing laughter, faking smiles. So it's immediately like you could have a heavier start of like, I'm in a situation that is, we can all connect to and is terrible. Like, you start with a heaviness and then you have like the resolution, versus Hey Stephen, I think is like stays the same of like, you're cool, I like you.
And Hey Stephen is like, this is someone she knows and is talking to. As we walked, we were talking. I didn't say half the things I wanted to. Like, it's someone she knows, is a little like, but she just is holding back this feeling. Whereas I think, Monty, you brought it up, like, Enchanted is literally a moment where she meets someone and is like, oh shit, I am floored by who you are.
She's using like specific words, like walls of insincerity. There's some mystique there. Like, insincerity is a powerful word.
Also, like, cross the room, your silhouette, not you, it's your silhouette, which is dark and in shadows. But then I think there's a build up here. I guess they did talk, because playful conversation starts, counter all your quick remarks, like there is something about them, like passing notes in secrecy. So it's just them. Like nobody knows. It's like a little bit them against the world, or it's forbidden in some way.
Yeah, because you have, again, those, I like the imagery of the walls of insincerity. Walls are what make you trapped. Walls are imposing, they're formidable, and they vanish when she sees his face.
Shifting eyes, like how suspicious is that? It's shifty. Like eyes are such an emotive part of your body, and these ones are shifting. Vacancy, like she's using words that are creating this sense of mystique and depth. I loved, you said, Jody, I think that line of the playful conversation starts.
Yes.
Even that phrasing, like it's not like we had a playful conversation.
Counter all your quick remarks, like passing notes in secrecy, like you feel that. And I think that Enchanted does a better job in literally those 3 lines of saying what their interaction was and why it's special. Whereas with Hey Steven, it's just, I see you and I think you're cute and hear all the things that I'm feeling. This Enchanted feels a little bit more based on experience and not just like, I like you and you're magic and you shine. So there's a little bit more depth and like intellectualism potentially to this connection. I don't think intellectualism is a word.
I mean, it is kind of intellectual in just the way that she chooses like her word order. Like the point I was thinking of is like she could have very easily said, we had a conversation. But she doesn't say we had a conversation. I feel like in Hey Steven, she kind of does say it.
Right? I think it shows her lyricism, her growth as an artist, just that she finds more interesting ways to say we talked.
Interesting ways, but also with a purpose. Like I think it's intentional. She's going for 2 different goals, and she knows how to like flex those. She knows how to like switch back and forth.
Yeah, the stakes are so much higher in Enchanted that this is, she's in a big experience. She's feeling disconnected and she feels this connection to someone and is trying to like regain that connection. It is that moment. But like the fact that we all immediately compared it to all of these things that made us safe in a difficult time, like those are way higher stakes. When you listen to Hey Steven, I think it's intentionally low stakes. It said, this is a person I know who I think is cool and I'm going to write him a song. And that is exactly what it's supposed to be. It's not a high stakes. None of us were like, oh, Steven represents this concept to me. We're like, yeah, it's a guy that's like, you're cool and I like you, and that's fine.
I don't think she ever says the word forever in Hey Steven, whereas this is Enchanted is loaded with forever.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the hyperbole for a second, because there's a lot actually in here. Forever is definitely one of them. I mean, this night is flawless. It's not.
Oh, girl.
It's not just nice. It's flawless.
I feel like the echoes thing is part of that too. I just like that phrase is really fascinating to me of my thoughts will echo your name until I see you again.
Love a good
Which
bridge.
can, like, you can say like I'll obsess over you or whatever, but it's echoing is what I think is interesting. Echoing you don't have control over. You can say it once, but you cannot control when an echo stops. And so it's this almost like hyperbole. It's out of control. This experience happened and now it'll just echo in her brain. She has no control over it. That'll just be what's happening in her brain, which I think is like a very intense image.
I mean, Echo's origins come from Greek mythology too. It's like this literary, like rooted concept. I mean, we use it all the time in language now as just like an echo, but you're right. Like in the context of all these literary references, to use that particular word that itself has like such a powerful, I guess, like history in literature is also really interesting. It's not just, and it's not just like your voice will echo, it's like your thoughts will echo, which is kind of magnifying it.
And it's echoing the person's name. So very specifically, like, which I think is interesting. It's very dramatic, but in a way that I understand.
In a way that like speaks to me deeply.
I feel like, well, if there are not any other thoughts, I have a final question that I think would be, we could all answer. Okay. Just like when you, having discussed this and all this, I'm interested, like, what is everyone's like either serious or I have kind of mine feels kind of absurd, but my main takeaway, what's your takeaway from this? And my honest takeaway from this after listening and talking about this so much is that Taylor needs to start talking to people that she has feelings for. Because that is all I keep thinking going through this. And I'm like, you probably should have said something. Like maybe my takeaway is I need to vocalize people who mean a lot to me. I need to vocalize how much they mean to me more, because maybe that's my take. Maybe that's just my own conviction coming through that I need to vocalize that more. But that was my main takeaway. What about you guys?
Way to bring us down to earth. Jody, why don't you go next? Because I think I started with this one in the last episode.
I think in discussing this song, it has shifted for me from being about someone you're romantically interested in to being more about a feeling that can be from a person or a place or an experience that is just magical and life-changing and important and makes you feel seen and heard, and the fear that you're going to lose that or that's going to go away. Like this was the first page. It's not where it ends. I'm going to keep remembering this and I want to feel this way, but like, please don't take this away from me. And so I think for me, it's that, you know, yes, romance can make you feel this way, but so can friendships, so can places, so can experiences. And clearly this podcast is therapy for me.
I was just going to say, I feel like we're having a great therapy session, you guys.
My therapist.
Yeah, for me, definitely. I think I definitely came into the song not thinking about it as a romance, and it was always a moment or a feeling for me. I think after analyzing this further, I am in awe of how successfully she's able to put this song in conversation with so much literature. And I think it's this idea that your small moments are no less powerful than some of these like amazing works of literature that have like stirred feelings. I think the connection there, that there are moments in your life that are really extraordinary is kind of my takeaway. And it's almost like I feel like to me, it's kind of inspiring to just be like, you should think about your life more like this, like to find it, like to look through the lens of this kind of enchanting meeting more often. Like we should try to maintain this lens of wonder as we experience really ordinary things in life, I think is like, this is a nice reminder through this discussion.
I was enchanted to meet you both. I think this is...
That night was sparkling.
It was sparkling. Don't let it go.
Never let it go. Well, I think that is a perfect conclusion.
Yeah. Good therapy session, everyone. That's a wrap. That is all we have for you today on AP Taylor Swift. Be sure to rate and review us on your favorite podcast app. Follow us at AP Taylor Swift on all social channels to stay up to date. And join us next time as we overanalyze the next Taylor Swift song on AP Taylor Swift.